Well, I think the heat is really on this handover. It's under serious scrutiny right now, and it's all the talk, and we all know the long goodbye doesn't work. We've seen this before, and we've seen it fail before. And I understand Port Adelaide are trying to respect Ken Hinkley, but they've made their decision that he's not the future. So why not start the future now? It's plain for us all to see that I think Ken should go in and say, I'll take the pressure off the club. I can see what's happening. This is going to become an every week discussion. I'm happy to walk, pay him out, let Josh Carr get on with it from here on in. Turn the page. You've been great for one another, but this club now needs to stand on its own 2 feet with Josh Carr at the helm. So I'm saying, come on, Ken. Do the right thing by Josh. Do the right thing by the club that's been incredible for you for 13 years. No one in footy wants to hear it's time. Doesn't matter whether you're an administrator, a player, a coach, whatever. No one wants to hear it's time, but we all know it's time. They might beat Richmond, they might beat the Bombers, they might beat St Kilda. That doesn't really matter. It'll roll on. And every week we'll be talking about this. So my plea really is to take this off the table. If you really love the club, do the right thing. It's time.
Strong.
Well, it's going to be an every week discussion. It's going to be impossible for this club to have success in this phase.
Melbourne talked about the fog of distraction over the past 3 years, that dark cloud which has really hung on the club. Do you feel like this could be something that could, affect the players, distract the players if this is an ongoing conversation?
Yeah, and every time they do something different, who's this? Is Ken's or is this Josh's? Are we seeing Josh's coaching yet? Whose system change was it? Was it Ken's system change? Was it whose idea to put Finlayson in here? Whose idea to do this? It's just, it's hard enough to win premierships with everything absolutely in order and challenging and charging as a united front from board to player, from board to boot stutter, really. And I just see this and I just think this is impossible. And Ken knows that, right? He knows that. Pay him out, thank him in the right way, but I think it's Ken's call more than theirs.
And even regardless, if they turn it around this weekend, they've got Richmond. It's going to be an intensive week, particularly with the local...
They'll win this week.
Does he deserve the chance to at least try and have one more crack at it?
You can do that. Yeah. And I'll tell you, we'll be having this discussion. You'll have this discussion with us in 4 weeks' time. They've got a pretty good draw for the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then it'll turn. And by the bye, we'll be saying, gee, OK, we're 12 weeks in now. What are we doing, When do we wait till round 15? Can we cut the cord? There'll be whispers going through the playing unit. This is on Ken for me. This is on Ken. And he's been a great servant of that football club, but it is time.
Pass the car keys to Josh already. That's a strong call. Right on Saturday night was a big story at the MCG as Collingwood handed Port Adelaide an absolute thrashing by 91 points. Now, Joey, we're talking about the speed of the Collingwood midfield looking ordinary last week. Don't tell me in 7 days they've turned on the after boosters. What did you make of the leg speed in that Collingwood side? Because we spent all week talking about it.
7 days is a long time in football, Jay-Z, and this team that looked too old and too slow last week were on top of the ground this weekend. But to be fair, how much of it was the opposition? And we'll touch on Port Adelaide in a moment because it was embarrassing what Port Adelaide dished up. But Collingwood certainly did look much better, and that's what happens when you get your hands on the footy first, and you can pounce off that. But we take a look at some of the vision, and it's ugly watching if you are Port Adelaide. Now, this is the very first minute of the third quarter. This isn't the last quarter. Look at the Collingwood players streaming past. There's 5 of them. For a handball received, they left Port Adelaide in their dust. Not only did Port Adelaide look like a team that didn't play last week, they looked like a team, to be honest, that hadn't done a pre-season. Like, look at some of these clips, and we'll get to the kicking out of the back half in a moment. But it was actually incredible to watch being there live. People were sitting going, oh, wow. Look at Port Adelaide's effort here. Look at some of the... Like, that is putting up the white flag and having no care for the end result or for your teammates in what they were doing, particularly now in this fourth quarter. I did cut about 6 or 7 clips. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. But this was what we continued to see. And just watch the white jumpers just loiter in the middle of the ground. Now, if this is part of their new system, Kingy, and you mentioned it, they have changed the way they want to play. They wanted to spread the field. They want to kick it around more and be unpredictable because they don't have Charlie Dixon now just to bomb it into. But the way that Collingwood just toyed with them and had that much space, it was hard to watch. For Port Adelaide. So, big tick to Collingwood. They came with the intent that they should have the week before, their pressure game, their run and speed. They looked $1 million, but it was ugly viewing.
So have a look at that. Considered 99 points on turnover, 15-9, so 24 scores, their most in 13 or 14 years. It's a massive number.
It's an enormous number.
It's an enormous number, a number that it has to sheet home to the motivation levels of this group. They weren't invested in the contest. I'm not saying that the players made a conscious decision to not do that.
Yeah.
It just leaks in. This is what I'm talking about. It just leaks in. Little angles, conversations here, and you're just not at that absolute buy-in level where you can compete with a team like Collingwood.
And interesting, Ken Hinkley said, well, they didn't get opening round, they didn't get a practice run-in sort of thing. The local Port Adelaide fans won't put up with a repeat performance back on their own deck against Richmond next week. That is for sure right. The grand final replay on Saturday at the SCG. It was Brisbane coming away with a 4-point win. And King, you just want to have a look at the Swans because, well, they weren't at their best either.
I just don't feel like they're at their diligent best at the moment.
Yep.
And there's just little things that are causing them concern and coughing up goals. So it's just basic things the Swans have always ticked off. You know, they've been difficult to play against, arm bar at all times. So Hayward has to go with Bailey here as they're rolling up half forward and allowing Lloyd to get back as the winger behind the ball. But he sort of goes and he says, oh, do I really have to go? Nah, I think I'll be OK. It's going to a contest. I'll stop here. So that little ceasefire there is enough to just cause Lloyd to get there late, easy goal. Zorko versus Blakey. And Blakey had a pretty good day. 5 points of difference halfway through the last quarter. This is it. Game's on the line. Swans are looming large. So he blocks him at the stoppage and then that's it. He just checks out. This is not Sydney. It's not the Swans we're used to.
Yep.
This is why they're 0-2 at the moment, because they're just not dotting their I's and crossing their T's. I know the gaps are small on their very best, and both games could have fallen their way. They could easily be 2-0. But they're not the same product that they've always been.
So the big question coming into the season, we talk the mental scars of the grand final. I know we're never going to be able to know the answer. We can't get inside players' heads, but are they the little things, just the small margins that we talk about that just make it so hard to climb the mountain again?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And it takes you to all facets of their game. Yeah. And we've been fascinated by the changing of the fullback. They brought a fullback in Hamling. So that's a concession.
Yep.
But how stubborn do you want to be? Yep. Like, why don't you just get the back six sorted and move your prime fullback back there? OK, tried it. Didn't work. No one's going to have a crack. It's your team. You do what you want with it. But behind the ball, they're really battling. This is not working up forward. He's had 3 shots at goals in 2 weeks. One of them's gone on the full. He got a free kick relayed to him at the top of the goal square, so he's kicked 2 goals in 2 weeks. It's not like he's going to go and win the Coleman for you, OK? So this is a nonsense to even say that goes onto his sheet. But at the other end, you're leaking. You're leaking easy goals. You're not taking intercept marks that you showed last week, Joey. I just think it's time to say, right, it's not working. We're going to Freo. Yep. It's a big road trip for us. We need to make sure our back line is in pure working order. Cut the cord. Don't be stubborn.
We called this a month ago and they have since conceded 86 and 96 points, the Sydney defence, and that is at the SCG, which is particularly normally a ground where, it is tougher to score. So that'll be a worry for Dean Cox, and you're all over it, King. On the flip side of this coin, what about the upside of this Brisbane Lions side, in particular the midfield? So Lachie Neale gets sat on, has 10 possessions, right? Lowest in more than a decade. So you take the absolute main cog of your engine out, Levi Ashcroft in his first game runs right. Will Ashcroft, the Norm Smith medalist, absolutely unbelievable. So we talk about teams and a struggle to climb the mountain and win back-to-back, and they'll be playing for a 3rd grand final in a row. There's a youth and an energy at the heart of this side. Could there be a dynasty here at Brisbane? Because if we talk a lot about Nick Dacos, right, and how important he is and what a superstar he is, do we talk enough about the Ashcroft brothers? Because, Lachie Neale's quiet, Harris Andrews, who's normally the pillar of the side, and the Ashcroft boys are taking over, and they're in their, 1st and 3rd seasons.
Well, that's how you generate it. It's the next wave. So you've mentioned the boys. It's Loman, it's Logan Morris, it's some of the others playing in the back line that can do that. And they're great stats, because 2-3 years ago, Kingy, we would have been sitting here saying, if Harris Andrews, would you call him the King and Queen? If they weren't dominating, Brisbane would struggle. But you're spot on there. We're starting to see an evolution of a team that can share the load.
Zach Bailey he's a player that can give you 10 out of 10 or can give you 2 out of 10. He can fluctuate even in game. But he has a happy knack of having massive impact when those guys are just off a fraction. You're right. They haven't done the work that other clubs have done in the build-up to this season. So it's a big win.
4 goals for Zach Bailey. Looks like one of the best players in the competition on his day.